treaty ink dried, but peace proved fragile. Adams lingered in Europe as minister to Britain in 1785, stepping into London's Lion's Den. Hostile crowds jeered Yankee Doodle as he presented credentials to George III, who icily declared eternal enmity. British lords snubbed him at court, their press vilifying the Republican upstart. Yet Adams charmed diplomats, forging trade pacts amid frost. Domestically, Shays' rebellion in 1786 exposed Confederation frailties. Farmers marching on courthouses. Adams warned from afar, anarchy or empire's return. His letters urged a stronger union. The Annapolis Convention fizzled, but Philadelphia's 1787 gathering birthed the Constitution. Adams, absent but influential, endorsed it sight unseen, trusting Madison's hand. Britain exploited weaknesses, arming Indians on the frontier and seizing ships in the Caribbean. The Crown's undeclared naval war tested young America's mettle. Adams pushed for a robust navy, his dispatches a clarion against complacency. As vice president under Washington in 1789, he cast tie-breaking votes, navigating Federalist anti-Federalist rifts with steely resolve. Hamilton's financial system soared the economy, but Jay's 1794 treaty with Britain rankled. Concessions for peace, no impressment end. Adams defended it in Congress, eyes on long-game stability. French Revolution's guillotines horrified him. He feared Jacobin fever crossing the Atlantic. Citizen Jeanette's meddling in 1793 sparked outrage, Adams urging expulsion. Britain, sensing opportunity, allied against France, impressing American sailors and seizing cargoes. Quasi-war erupted in 1798, undeclared naval clashes off U.S. coasts. As president, Adams stared down war hawks, negotiating peace while building frigates that humbled French privateers. The Crown watched warily, their old foe rising. XYZ affairs, millions for defense, not 1 cent for tribute, rallied the nation. Adams's midnight judges and alien acts drew fire, but averted catastrophe. Federalists splintered, Jefferson lurking. Through intrigue and grit, Adams preserved neutrality, the empire's shadow receding yet ever watchful. Election 1800s mudslinging peaked. Adams the monarchist, Jefferson the atheist. He lost narrowly, but his legacy towered. Independence architect, peace preserver. Retiring to Quincy, he reflected on the Crown's arc, from massacre enforcers to grudging recognizers. Britain's 1812 war tested his warnings, but America endured. Adams' defense of British soldiers proved prophetic. Rule of law birthed the Republic. His diplomacy tamed the empire's roar into wary respect. Yet tensions lingered, trade spats echoing old battles. John Adams' saga whispers eternal lessons, courage in courts, vision in congresses, steel in salons. He bent history's arc toward liberty, forcing the British crown from conqueror to equal. As empires rise and fall, his intrigue endures. One man's defiance reshaped the world. What moment in Adam's story captivates you most? Share in the comments. We read every one. Imagine a frigid Boston night in 1770, snow swirling like whispers of rebellion. As a single gunshot pierces the darkness, British soldiers, cornered by an angry mob, fire into the crowd, leaving 5 colonists dead in the crimson snow. The Boston Massacre ignites a firestorm, and at its heart stands John Adams, a principled lawyer with fire in his eyes, risking everything to defend the hated redcoats. Why would this patriot defend the enemy? Hello, history enthusiasts, and welcome to our deep dive into John Adams' daring role in America's fight for freedom and the British Crown's ruthless countermove. If this tale of courage and clash grips you, drop a quick comment below. Who do you think was the true villain in the revolution? Let's uncover the intrigue together. John Adams, born in 1735 in the humble Massachusetts town of Braintree, grew up devouring books by the firelight, his mind sharpening like a bayonet on the grindstone of colonial discontent. By his 30s, he was no mere farmer's son, but a voice crying out against tyranny, penning fiery essays that mocked British overreach. Yet it was that bloody March night that thrust him into the storm's eye. The Crown's troops, sent to enforce taxes without representation, had clashed with patriots pushed to the brink. Adams, urged by his cousin Samuel, stepped forward not out of loyalty to King George, but to prove justice blind even in chaos. In the sweltering courtroom of 1770, Adams faced a jury steeped in anti-British fury. He argued the soldiers acted in self-defense, their muskets mere reflexes against a hail of snowballs turned lethal. "Facts are stubborn things," he thundered, dismantling the prosecution's rage with cold logic. The verdict stunned the colony. Most soldiers acquitted, their captain guilty only of manslaughter. Cheers from redcoats echoed faintly, but patriots seethed. Had Adams betrayed the cause? Little did they know, this bold stand was just the spark. Whispers of treason dogged Adams as he rode home, but his resolve only hardened, forging him into the Revolution's unyielding architect. The Boston Tea Party of 1773 brewed the next storm, with disguised Sons of Liberty dumping 347 chests of taxed tea into the harbor, a defiant splash heard round the empire. King George's ministers reeled, their patience snapping like a frayed rope. Enter the coercive axe, punitive hammers slamming shut Boston's port and quartering troops in colonial homes, designed to crush the rebellion in its cradle. Adams watched the noose tighten, his quill flying across pages in midnight vigils. He rallied the Massachusetts legislature, declaring the acts an attempt to make slaves of us. Suspense mounted as delegates from 12 colonies converged in Philadelphia for the First Continental Congress in 1774, a powder keg of egos and ideals. Adams, ever the strategist, nominated George Washington as commander of the militia, his keen eye spotting the Virginian's aura of destiny amid the tobacco smoke-filled rooms. British General Thomas Gage, now royal governor, fortified Boston, his spies infiltrating patriot circles. The Crown's response escalated, branding rebels traitors and vowing to extirpate them. Adams sensed the tipping point, smuggling letters that fanned flames from Virginia to Massachusetts. As Minutemen drilled in the fields, he pondered the unthinkable. War was no longer a specter, but a shadow creeping closer, with the Empire's full wrath poised to strike. Tensions boiled over on April 19th, 1775, at Lexington Green, where dawn's light revealed 8 patriots slain by Gage's advance guard seeking rebel arms. The shot heard round the world echoed to Concord, then back to Boston, birthing the Revolutionary War. Adams, heart pounding, raced to Philadelphia for the Second Continental Congress, the air thick with gunpowder rumors. There he championed independence, his voice a clarion amid dithering delegates terrified of the hangman's noose. The British Crown, enraged, unleashed a naval armada, blockading ports and starving colonies into submission. King George proclaimed the colonists in rebellion, offering pardons only to those who knelt. Adams refused to bend, drafting the olive branch petition as a feint, a final plea for peace laced with unyielding demands. Rejected outright, it exposed the monarch's iron fist. In secret sessions, Adams twisted arms, convincing skeptics like John Dickinson that half measures spelled doom. His brilliance shone in elevating Washington to general, but intrigue deepened when Adams uncovered loyalist plots within Congress itself. British spies whispered of Adams as the prime mischief maker, their dispatches urging his capture. As redcoats fortified Bunker Hill, Adams plotted from afar, his letters a web of coded defiance. The Empire's hounds closed in, but the prey was crafting a declaration that would shake thrones. By summer 1776, Philadelphia buzzed like a hive on the brink of swarming. Thomas Jefferson, handpicked by Adams, penned these immortal words of independence, but it was Adams who defended every clause in Marathon debates, parrying attacks from timid souls fearing civil war. On July 4th, the document passed, igniting cheers and terror in equal measure. Bells tolled freedom, yet British ships darkened the horizon, their cannons promising retribution. King George, throne ablaze with fury, branded the declaration a most cruel, wanton, and unnatural act, dispatching 3,000 Hessian mercenaries to carve through rebels like wheat. Washington's army, ragged and disease-ridden, barely held New York, fleeing across New Jersey as house forces pursued. Adams, in Baltimore with Congress, orchestrated supply lines and alliances, his mind a whirlwind of maps and motives. Whispers reached him of a grand British strategy: divide and conquer, isolating New England's hotbed. Suspense gripped the Patriots as Christmas 1776 loomed. Washington crossed the icy Delaware, striking Trenton in an audacious raid that revived flagging spirits. Adams exulted in private correspondence, yet knew the Crown's response brewed darker. Lord North's ministry plotted a two-pronged assault, Burgoyne from Canada, Howe from the south, to squeeze the rebellion lifeless. Adams, the unsung spider in the web, spun alliances with France, dangling American grit as bait for European gold. Victory at Saratoga in 1777 stunned the world, Burgoyne's surrender proving rebels could triumph. France, smelling blood, signed treaties in 1778, their ships tipping the scales. But Britain roared back, capturing Savannah and Charleston, their bayonets dripping with colonial resolve. King George, unbowed, rejected peace overtures, his ministers scheming to strangle the uprising through naval supremacy. Adams saw the chessboard clearly. Elected commissioner to France, he sailed in 1778 aboard the Boston, dodging British frigates in a hair-raising Atlantic gauntlet. Storms battered the ship, privateers lurked, but Adams arrived in Paris only to clash with fellow envoy Silas Deane over graft and glory. The Crown's spies swarmed the salons, funneling disinformation to fracture the American mission. Undeterred, Adams negotiated loans from Dutch bankers, his eloquence turning skeptics into backers. Back home, Benedict Arnold's treason in 1780 sent shockwaves, mirroring the Empire's insidious tactics. British gold corrupted officers, sowing paranoia. Adams pressed on, his dispatches urging Congress to steel against infiltration. As Cornwallis marched south, the war's tide seemed to ebb, but Adams envisioned Yorktown's climax, his diplomatic webs tightening around the redcoats' noose. Paris intrigue thickened as Adams navigated Versailles' gilded traps. French courtiers dallied, British agents poisoned wells with rumors of American weakness. Adams, blunt and unpolished, demanded recognition, securing Dutch recognition in 1782 after tireless haggling. The Crown countered with divide and rule, wooing states with separate peace offers, but Adams' unity pleas held the line. Yorktown's siege in 1781 sealed fate. Cornwallis surrendered to Franco-American forces, his fifes wailing, "The world turned upside down." Cheers erupted across colonies, yet King George dug in, Parliament fracturing under war's weight. Lord North fell. Rockingham's ministry sued for peace. Adams, summoned to Paris alongside Franklin and Jay, entered negotiations where every clause dripped suspense. Britain offered recognition but clung to Western forts and debts, their envoys probing for cracks. Adams, the hawk, insisted on full sovereignty, Mississippi River boundaries, and fishing rights off Newfoundland. Tempers flared. Oswald's charm masked steel. Through 97 grueling days, Adams' logic prevailed, birthing the 1783 Treaty of Paris. The empire yielded, but grudges simmered. Retaliation loomed in trade wars and frontier intrigues.